Hello, I'm Faith Lumpkin, and I'm going to be talking to you about why police officers should wear body cameras. To start, the topic of conversation that is body cameras has been more likely in households, in politics, all over the country. People are wondering, what do we do about the protests, the brutal use of force and violence against people that are being done by our law enforcement officers? Police officers are important, and therefore their integrity is important. People will look at them as heroes, as something little kids want to be when they grow up. That integrity, that feeling of safety, is the key to being a police officer. The problem here comes from a root of racism. Racism has been evident in our country since it started, but it has been seen more and more with police use of force that sometimes ends in fatalities recently, like in cases like George Floyd back in May of 2020. The purpose of this argument is to convince the people that body cameras would make a big difference and a big help to all of the problems that we are facing within our country. Therefore, the protests, the deaths, the violence, all of it together. The audience is all of the American people. This is the citizens, the people of your communities, the politicians, and the law enforcement officers themselves. My thesis is that with the presence of corruption, I believe that body cameras becoming mandatory will increase integrity, decrease police use of force, and increase arrests made. To start, integrity. This is one of the biggest things we look for in police officers. We're looking for someone we can trust, someone we can feel safe with, someone we can call at the slightest inconvenience or the biggest problem, something as crazy as a shooter at a school or a bombing or anything at all, really. There was a survey done saying that 39% of American people do not trust their police. What kind of a police system do we have if the people themselves do not trust them? There was a police department in Baltimore that implemented the body camera programs, and they said that it improved police strategies and accountability. Accountability is where integrity comes from. If we want to hold these officers accountable for something, we have to have hard evidence. The footage that we get off of these body cameras is hard evidence used in court to prove someone was killed wrongfully, someone was arrested wrongfully, or any injustices will be seen because the officers are wearing these cameras constantly on their job, and this is recording any wrongdoings on them or other people. Another point I have to make is that these cameras would help decrease the use of force. The use of force is the whole entire reason why these cameras need to be implemented. They're the reason for all the protests. Sometimes these overuse of force lead to fatalities, deaths, and they can also implement violence and racism and just be an outlet for a lot of very negative things that the people have seen and the people are standing up for. Something to note is that there was a study done regarding use of force, and they found that complaints against the police department dropped 17%, and the actual use of force found through the footage dropped 10%. It might not sound like a big number, but when it comes to lives being saved, those numbers are huge. Another added benefit to the argument for body-worn cameras is the fact that they can help increase arrests. They actually can be used in further training for these officers. Now, when officers go to the police academy, they spend months, around 6 months, in rigorous training, classes, real-life situations, but they don't genuinely get what will happen when they become officers. And a lot of officers tell people that with time and with experience comes those experiences and those strong suits. With these videos, we can use the footage, show them back in training to show these officers what a real life situation would look like, how a real officer would react, what are the right things to do, what are the wrong things to do, how could something have been done different. It is a major piece of training to have these video footages to use. Another fact is that they are a better incentive for officers to get these arrests done. Having that incentive behind it will help them do the arrests. Now, at the time, most departments have things called quotas. Quotas are things where they might say you're supposed to have a certain amount of arrests by the end of the month. This is their incentive, and this drives police officers to pull more cars over, do more illegal searches, do things without probable cause. Basically, unjust arrests, unjust actions. But if we removed an incentive like that and replaced it with an incentive like body-worn cameras that also have the things we talked about previously in the background, the fact that their higher ups can see that, the fact that that evidence could be used, people have these cameras that are showing others their actions to show, I can do arrests. I am more likely to go in there and get the criminal. And for a fact, the Las Vegas PD implemented these programs and studied them, and they saw that they were more likely to issue a citation or arrest while they were using these cameras. People may have some things to say back on this argument. One of those things being that these cameras become an invasion of privacy. But when we're talking about an invasion of privacy, you have to think of things like the illegal searches that could be done, the improbable cause that some officers wouldn't have, that wouldn't be seen, wouldn't be held accountable without body-worn cameras. Those are real invasions of privacy. Nowadays, we have people with cameras everywhere. We have our phones, we have our computers. People will be out, let's say in a park, recording their friend doing a skateboarding trick, and they could get some strangers in the background. That is not an invasion of privacy. So these cameras, which are essentially doing the exact same thing, recording a specific situation where the background really is not important or paid attention to, or widely shared, because it will be kept under good storage within these police department facilities. We have something that really is not at all an invasion of privacy and can actually protect others' invasions of privacy when the cases come where they might have had done an illegal search or something like that. Therefore, there's no invasion of privacy there. Another thing is that some say that these cameras can put officers at a higher risk. They say if someone knows they're being recorded, they might act out more violently or more aggressively, thus putting the officers at risk. But in reality, the studies that have been done there are easily dismissible. There isn't much saying, no real facts, no real meat to it to say that these body-worn cameras have anything to do with the fact that officers could have more violence towards them or aggression. The risk really doesn't change just because of the cameras. If anything, it goes down by these people knowing they're being recorded and also could be held accountable for their actions. Lastly, and probably the biggest point, is the money. These programs cost a lot of money. For example, in one program, specifically in a kind of smaller town, it was $500 per officer to have these camera programs implemented. That's around $100,000 per district facility, and that's a lot of money. Some other programs, bigger cities, were looking at millions of dollars. And yes, that is a big budget, that is a big expense taken out, but we can look at the benefits. We're putting more criminals away. We're protecting people's privacy. We're increasing integrity and trust of our police officers, our law enforcement that are so important to our communities. All of these things, decreasing use of force, can help so much. That money is really nothing. With the higher inflation and everything else, that amount of money to a police department isn't as substantial as people may think when they hear the dollar signs. Now, the researcher recommends that we implement these body-worn cameras in order to help protect citizens. By doing that, we are increasing the integrity within our police departments. We are decreasing the use of force, the fatalities, the violence, the racism, and we are increasing arrests, putting more bad criminals away who actually did something wrong. These police officers can carry out their job just with justice and formally. Thank you.